Good morning or afternoon, Year 5, depending on when you're watching this. So yesterday we got to the bit where they were at the tube station. He just pressed the buttons and said child to Buckingham Palace, but nothing happened. So let's see what happens. The journey to London. I tried again, but the machine started flashing. Do you kids need help? Asked a woman from the queue. She was dressed in a green coat and shiny shoes, and had curly black hair and glasses. Tom's eyes became wide and he shook his head, but I nodded. The woman stepped forward. Where do you need to go? She asked. Buckingham Palace, I said, for our school trip. I tried to make my voice more deep and grown-up sounding. The woman frowned, but then, looking at her watch, said, OK. She quickly pressed lots of buttons on the screen, then said, there you go, before stepping back into the line. We looked up at the machine, which was flashing £8.50 at us. Tom quickly got the money out of his bag and put in the exact change. 2 pieces of pink card instantly popped out like sweets from a sweet machine. And grabbing them, we thanked the lady and ran down the stairs to where I knew the train to the city would be. We squeezed ourselves onto the platform. It was so full of people that I was afraid we wouldn't even be able to get on the train. I had never seen so many people squashed together in one place before. But when the train came, everyone flooded onto it like a giant wave and took us with them. Tom grabbed hold of my arm and grabbed his, and we soon found ourselves pressed like sandwich filling between lots of people, all busy looking at their phones or listening to music. This is good, said Tom. His face squashed up against a large belly. I tried to nod, but someone's book was touching my head. We watched as lots of stations passed by and looked at all the different people getting on and off the train. Finally, we heard the driver announce that the next station was going to be King's Cross. We have to follow the dark blue line, I said to Tom. After we had jumped out onto the platform, we followed signs for the Piccadilly line and got on another train. Easy. Now that I wasn't feeling so nervous, I realised I was hungry. I had been so busy packing a present for the Queen, I had forgotten about the emergency bag of sweets I meant to bring. Do you think the Queen would mind if we had one of her biscuits? I asked Tom. He shook his head eagerly. She must have lots in her kitchen, especially if she has tea every day. He ripped open the packet and passed me one of the thick, crumbly fingers that lay inside. It was the most delicious biscuit I'd ever had, probably because I knew it was meant to be eaten by the Queen. We had another biscuit each on the train, and after just a few minutes, the train lady announced, the next station is Green Park. Please alight here for the Jubilee and Victoria lines. I like the train lady. She has a nice voice. I imagine she looks like Mary Poppins and sits at the very front of the train next to the driver in her very own special chair. It must be good fun going through all the stations and telling people which ones are coming next. We'd hurried off the train and followed the signs to the taxis. Running up the stairs, we found a long line of black cabs waiting in a row. Inside the one at the front was a man with curly red hair. He was eating a sandwich and bobbing his head along to the radio station. When he saw us looking at him through the window, he rolled it down and leaned out. What can I do for you two? Please, we need to get to Buckingham Palace, I said, just as loudly and clearly as I could, because I remembered my Uncle Lenny saying that there was nothing taxi drivers hated more than people who didn't say where they wanted to go clear enough. The taxi man leaned forward and looked around. Why are you on your own? He asked, frowning. We're meeting our teacher there. We're on a trip and we got separated from our class, and our teacher said that if anyone got lost, we should meet the class there, said Tom, all in a rush. The taxi man frowned again and rubbed his chin. All right, he said eventually, hop in, and be quick about it. I ain't here to be chauffeuring lost kids around all day. You're lucky it's only a few minutes away, and I've got tykes of me own. We jumped in quickly. The taxi man locked the doors and in a single move swerved off. As he drove out onto the main road, he looked at us in a funny rectangular-shaped mirror that cars always have right at the front. Uncle Lenny stays there, so that drivers can check the traffic behind them, but I think they're there so that drivers can look at people sitting in the back seat when they think no one is looking at them. What will you be doing at Buckingham Palace today then? He asked. We're going to meet the Queen, said Tom before I could stop him. Is that right now? Asked the taxi man, looking at us again in the mirror. His eyes were smiling. Tom clapped his hands over his mouth and didn't say anything else. But the taxi man just laughed and said, "Well, when you see her, say hi from me." I nodded and the taxi man laughed again. After a few minutes, the taxi came to a stop in traffic. So year 5, we're going to leave it there today. Oh, I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. Will they get to the Queen? Who knows? Over and out, Miss Davis.